In today's lesson, we're going to be looking at calculating using standard form. Now, standard form is just a way of writing very, very, very large numbers and very, very small numbers in a slightly more succinct way, so we don't have to use loads and loads of zeros and keep track of these really big, long numbers. We'll have a look at an example first of all. If we take the number 12 million, in standard form that would be written as 1.2 times 10 to the power 7. Now, the 1.2 takes the digits of the 12 in the 12 million and writes them as a number that is greater than or equal to 1 and less than 10. So 12 becomes 1.2. The other part of the number is always a power of 10, so it's always going to be times 10 to the power of 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 or something like that. In this case it's 7, because if we think about where the decimal point started at the very end of the number, in order to get between the 1 and the 2, it's moved 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 places. Or rather, the number has moved 7 places with respect to the decimal point. So we get 1.2 times 10 to the power of 7. Now, this is for very big numbers. If we're looking at very small numbers, something like 0.00027, well, we would still have our first number between 1 and 10, so 2.7. We'd still have times 10, but this time for very small numbers the power becomes negative, okay? In this case, if we think about how the numbers moved with respect to the decimal point, well, the point started here and it's moved 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 places in total, so we get times 10 to the power minus 5. So very large numbers have a positive power, very small numbers have a negative power. We also need to be able to calculate using standard form. So if we have a look at an example of that, we can calculate using standard form if we do the number part and the power part separately. So in this case, 2 times 10 to the power 4 times 6 times 10 to the power 3, we would do the number part first of all, 2 times 6, which is 12, and then we would do our power part, our indices part, well, 10 to the power 4 times 10 cubed. When we multiply powers, we add the indices together, and obviously that would be times 10 to the power 7. Now, this isn't written in standard form because the first number is too large. It's more than 10, and so the number doesn't count as standard form. So the final step is to make that smaller. Well, if we make it 1.2 instead of 10, it's effectively shrunk by a power of 10. Now that means that in order to keep the whole number the same size, we have to increase the power by 1, so that this side of the equation has grown by a power of 10. The net effect is that it stays the same. So our answer to this question is 1.2 times 10 to the power of 8. Similarly, we need to be able to divide with standard form, and it kind of works in the same way. We do the number part first. 3 divided by 6 is 0.5. And we do our power part. 10 to the power 7 divided by 10 to the power 4 is going to be 10 cubed. In this case, we do 7 minus 4 when we're dividing powers of 10. Now, common mistake that people make here is to put a divide by sign in the middle, but we're not doing that. It's still a standard form number, so it's still got to be times in between those two things. Again, our first number doesn't quite fit with standard form because it's less than 1, so we have to increase that one by 10 to get 5. And to compensate for that getting a power of 10 bigger, we have to reduce our 10 part by 1 as well. So we get 5 times 10 squared as the answer to that question. So here are 5 questions on multiplying and dividing by standard form numbers. If you could make some notes on the video, make sure you've got all the important points down, and then try to answer these questions in your book ready for the next lesson. Thanks for watching.